Okay, so for our headband, we are going to need some double knit yarn. Today I'm going to be using the Cambrian Welsh wool. This is a 50-gram ball and it's in the colourway Mineral. I'll also be using a pair of 4mm knitting needles. Mine have a cable attached, but a pair of 4mm straight knitting needles will work perfectly for this project. You'll also need a cable needle, a darning needle and a sharp pair of scissors. So once you have everything ready, let's get started. Okay, so let's begin. So to start with, we need to cast on 28 stitches. I'm going to be using the long tail cast on method today. That's my preferred method. However, you use any cast on method that you prefer. If you'd like to learn this method, then I do have a tutorial on it in my knitting playlist, so I shall link that in the description box below for you. So go ahead now and cast on your 28 stitches. Okay, so as always, I like to just double check my stitch count before going any further. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8. Perfect. So once you're happy that you've got a stitch count of 28, we shall move on to row 1. Okay, so now we're ready to begin row 1. So row 1 begins with knit 6. So we go ahead now and knit the first 6 stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Oops. So this is very strange doing this under the camera. 5 and 6. Okay, now we are going to purl 4. So go ahead now and purl the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now we're going to knit the next 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And now we're going to purl the next 4 stitches. So go ahead and purl the next 4. Okay, and now we're going to knit the last 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the last one, 6. Okay, so that's row 1 complete. So moving on now to row 2. So row 2 begins with knit 3. So go ahead and knit the first 3 stitches. Okay, and now we're going to purl the next 22 stitches. Okay, nearly there now. So just the last stitch there. Okay, so once you've purled your 22 stitches, we're going to go ahead now and knit the last 3. So 1, 2, and the last one, 3. So moving on to row 3 now, is where our cables are going to begin. So don't worry, I will talk you through it step by step. So go ahead and make sure you've got your cable needle to hand now. And we're going to start this row with a knit 4. So go ahead and knit the first 4 stitches. Okay. And next is cable 4 back. So what we're going to do, what that means for cable 4 is we're going to be working 4 stitches. Okay. Now 2 of these stitches, the first 2 stitches on your left hand needle, we're going to place onto our cable needle. So we are just going to pop the cable needle through those 2 stitches, okay, and just pop them onto the cable needle. So don't twist them, you can see they're still as they would be on the left hand needle. Okay, so don't twist the stitches, keep them just like so. And now, because it's a cable 4 back, what that means is the cable needle has to lay at the back of our work. Okay, so what should happen is the cable needle should rest at the back of the work. So you should almost be able to put your needles like this, and then your cable needle will be just hanging there at the back. Okay, so you can see the stitches aren't twisted in any way, but the cable needle is just dangling at the back there. And now what we're going to do is knit the next 2 stitches on our left hand needle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and knit the next 2 stitches, and it can feel funny with this cable needle dangling around, but you'll get used to it. Just let it dangle, don't worry about it. Okay, and then we're just going to knit the next 2 stitches. Okay, and now we're going to go back to our cable needle. So we're just going to slide those stitches up to this tip here. Okay, and then this cable needle is just going to become our working left hand needle for a moment. So you can see the stitches haven't been twisted in any way, they're just as they were taken off. And now we're going to go ahead and knit those 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. And that is your first cable 4 back. So if you need to rewind the video to watch it again, then do. But every time we do a cable 4 back or a cable 4 front, I'm going to talk you through it, so don't worry. So next we need to do a cable 4 front. Okay, so taking our cable needle again, very similar to what we've just done. So we're going to pick up those first 2 stitches on the left hand needle. Okay, and just pop them onto the cable needle, and then just let it rest in the front this time. Okay, so the cable needle should be facing you, and then we're going to knit the next 2 stitches from our left hand needle and just let this cable needle just hang there in the front. Okay, so 1 and 2, and now we're going to use this as our working needle, so just move those up slightly and then just knit those 2 off the cable needle. You don't need to worry about putting them back onto the left hand needle, just knit them straight from the cable needle, and it makes it so much easier and quicker. And that is your cable 4 front. So now we're going to go ahead and knit the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now we need to do another cable 4 back. So we're going to take our cable needle again, and we are simply going to pick up those 2 stitches from the left hand needle, slide them onto the cable needle, and just let the cable needle hang at the back of our work. And we're going to knit the next 2 stitches on the left hand needle. Okay, and then we are going to go back to our cable needle. Okay, and then we're just going to knit those 2 stitches off the cable needle. And that is our cable 4 back. So keep hold of your cable needle because we now need to do a cable 4 front. So we're going to pick up those next 2 stitches, pop them onto the cable needle, no twisting, just let them hang there, and then we're going to knit the next 2 stitches, Just let the cable needle just do its thing. Don't over worry about it at the moment. Just you'll get into a rhythm of it the more you do it, but just let it just hang there. It's not going to do anything. It's fine. And if it falls through, you can just pick it up and poke it back through those stitches. Okay, so just slide the stitches up towards the tip of the cable needle because you're going to use that now. I'll say, and never put them back onto the needle. You don't need to. Just knit them straight from the cable needle. Okay, and that is your cable for friends. So now we're going to knit the last 4 stitches. And that is row 3 complete. So moving on to row 4 now, we're going to knit the first 3 stitches. And we are going to purl the next 22 stitches. Okay, so nearly there now. Okay, so what we're going to do now is knit the last 3 stitches. 1, 2 and 3. So that brings us on to row 5 now. Row 5 begins with knit 12. So go ahead and knit the first 12 stitches. Okay, now we're going to purl the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. And now we're going to go ahead and knit the remaining 12 stitches. And that completes row 5. Okay, so now we're going to move on to row 6. So row 6 is knit 3. And now we're going to purl 22. Okay, and the last one. And that brings us to our last 3 stitches, which are knit stitches. So go ahead and knit the last 3 stitches. And that completes row 6. So moving on to row 7 now, we're going to begin with knit 10. Okay, and now we need to pick up our cable needle again because we're going to cable 4 back. So we're going to slip the next 2 stitches onto our cable needle, and we're just going to let that needle hang at the back of our work whilst we knit the next 2 stitches. Okay, now we're going to take our cable needle without twisting those stitches, just move them up the tip of that cable needle and just knit them straight from the cable needle. So 1 and the next one, 2. Okay, and now we're going to cable for front. So we're just going to take our cable needle again, pick up the next 2 stitches, slide them onto the cable needle and let that needle just hang in the front this time, and just knit the next 2 stitches. Move those around. You can always as well stick them in your work like that if you want to. Sometimes I do that, stop them moving around if you want to. So, and then just take it back out and knit the next 2 stitches. There we go. So now we need to knit the next 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And that completes row 7. Now moving on to row 8, we're going to knit 3. And we're going to purl our 22 stitches. Okay, and that leaves us with 3 stitches, which are knit stitches. 1, 2 and 3. And that completes our 8-row set, which is also known as our 8-row repeat. So what we're going to do now is we're going to carry on repeating those 8 rows until our headband measures 18 inches. And you can either rewind this video as many times as you need to complete those sets, or I also have a written pattern over on Etsy. I shall leave a link for that in the description box below. So go ahead now and complete your 18 inches and meet me back here. Okay, so I've now reached my 18 inches. So you can see the honeycomb pattern is really popping even without blocking. So this is going to look amazing once we've washed it and blocked it as well. So now I just need to cast this off, and I do recommend that you just cast it off quite loosely because you don't want it to gather in at one end. Okay, so to cast off, I'm just going to do my regular cast off, which is knitting the first 2 stitches and then just pulling the first stitch over the top of the second stitch and off, and then knitting the next stitch and again pulling the first stitch over the second stitch. And I'm just going to continue doing this all the way to the end. Okay, so you can see this end here is cast off now and it's not too tight, the fabric isn't pulling in, so it's just a nice even tension. So what I'm going to do now is cut a really nice long tail ready to sew the 2 ends together, and then I'm just going to fasten this off, pull that tail through. Okay. So now we're going to fold the headband in half with right side facing us. So the insides, the wrong sides are together on the inside. And what I like to do is on this end corner here, I'm just going to pop that tail into the inside of the headband. I'm just going to line these corners up, and I just like to use these little plastic clips just to hold that corner. So when I'm sewing these two edges together, the cast on edge and the cast off edge, this doesn't move, so I don't end up with it not aligned at the very end. Now, the reason I like to sew it this way with right sides facing me and have the sewing up seam on the outside is that when we open it up, it will give us a really nice smooth finish on the inside. Yeah, so it's going to be really comfortable and you're not going to have a seam against your head on the inside. So I'm just going to thread my tail now and sew these two ends together. What you're doing is working through the cast off edge and the cast on edge, just working backwards and forwards through those stitches. So I'm just going to line this up on this edge here just to get that corner. Just going to work through the side. So all I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to reinforce this corner here just by popping a little reinforcing knot in. So I'm just going to work back through that loop just to create a little knot here. I'm just going to work backwards and forwards through these two edges. Okay, so you can see now where I come up to this end, I can just take that off and it's perfectly aligned. Sometimes the edges can move a little bit when you're sewing along. There we go. So just coming up to the end now. So all I'm going to do is put another little reinforcing stitch in here. So I'm just going to pop that through, and then I'm just going to bring the needle back through this side, and then it will just tie a little knot there just to secure. And then all we need to do now is to turn it over and weave in our ends. So we go ahead now and just weave in these ends. So I just like to go through a few times just to secure the end. So as you can see, we've got a really nice smooth inside, so it's not going to irritate or be bulky against our head. So now what we need to do is to go ahead and block this.